Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Uh, we can get started. I'd like to go ahead and do a quick introduction, and then we will dive right into this webinar. The idea of this webinar is to allow you to understand and start the process of evaluation to say, is the Oracle Cloud right for you? Obviously, many of you have thought whether we should not go to cloud. Is the cloud right? Is the cloud ready? A lot of those things. We'll try and answer some of those questions here today. On our panel here today, we have myself, Arun Kable, and we also have Hemal Parikh, who's my co-presenter. And we also have Jeff Dalgard, who's our regional sales manager, who covers the East Coast of America. So, and let me introduce myself. I'm a consultant with a lot of experience. I run operations at NexInfo, and I have a lot of experience in ERP, product lifecycle management, and supply chain planning, demand planning. I've delivered a lot of projects over my 25 years plus of industry experience. And I typically work as a solution advisor or process designer. With that, let me have Hemal introduce himself.
Thank you, Arun. Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon to all of you. I bring with me 14 plus years of experience working across multiple ERP products of Oracle, on-prem, cloud, and have been playing multiple roles as on the delivery side into the process design space and worked across multiple engagements across industries like manufacturing, retail, etc. And I'm an Oracle certified implementation specialist, and my primary focus area has been finance and supply chain.
And I will actually ask Jeff to introduce himself, but he's a little bit under the weather. Jeff, are you able to speak a few words and say hello to the audience?
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. Thank you very much, Arun, for the brief introduction. I'm sure this is going to be a very valuable event for everyone involved. Forgive me for not speaking too much. I would be hovering the mute button quite often as I've been ill for a couple of days. Feel free to ask any questions through the direction that Arun will give you in a few moments, and I'm happy to field them either before or after the event. Arun, thank you very much.
Thank you. So with that, let me go ahead and start with a quick introduction of NexInfo. So NexInfo as a company has been around for over 19 years. We are in our 20th year. This September, we will complete 20. So we've been in the ERP PLM space for that many years, providing a lot of value to many clients, from Fortune 500 clients to smaller companies. And over the years, we've been recognized by quite a few reputed organizations. We've been recognized as some of the most promising Oracle solution providers, or for being smart in how we do our implementations. We've also been recognized by Gartner for being specialized in certain areas in supply chain and S&OP. And we also been recognized by Inc. 5000 for our growth as a company. And we are headquartered in Orange County, but we have our operations across the United States. We also have operations in Europe, and we have a back office out in India, a couple of back offices in India. And so just so you get a lay of the geography, in the United States, we also have offices in Redmond, Washington, Chicago, New Jersey. And in Europe, we operate out of Dublin, Ireland, but we are very active in Switzerland, Belgium, UK, and Ireland. So that's our footprint. And as you can see on the second bullet point, we actually do a lot of work with integrated business planning, ERP, CRM, EPM, and HCM, and also predictive analytics. So we do a lot of data analytics too. And that's our forte. So with that, let me go to the next slide, which would give you a quick read of, okay, so this is basically a quick of what are the different industries we work in. And as you can see, it spans high-tech, manufacturing, life sciences, biotech, food and beverage, aerospace, and some of a sampling of our clients is on the right side that allows you a quick view of what kind of clients we have worked with. Some pretty large and some are growing or smaller companies. So what do we expect to do in this session? Or what can you expect in this session? We'd actually like to get you to understand the cloud fundamentals. And we'll have a couple of polls coming out very soon that will allow us to understand the level of maturity of our audience in terms of their cloud understanding. And that will help us tailor what we speak to you or how much time we spend on the different slides, right? We have content available for going right from basics to quite advanced. And depending on what the audience wants, we are able to tailor how we present it. So we will go through cloud fundamentals. We will also try to help you understand how cloud fits your organization and also see what your potential journey to the cloud can be. And we also would like to talk about a rapid implementation methodology that we have come up with based off on our cloud implementations. Obviously, the key motivation to migrate to the cloud, right? Why do people want to migrate to the cloud? Is basically to outsource application maintenance work, right? You don't want to be burdened with all the application maintenance and the day-to-day, whether it's day-to-day maintenance, periodic upgrades, or all of that, and actually start making use of it like a business application where the users are driving the value. So let's start with, in terms of our audience, what we would like to understand. We would like to understand whether you're cursorily looking to see if cloud is something you're just interested in, whether you already understand cloud and are looking to see if it's a good fit, or you already made a choice, right? So I'm going to start a poll that basically says what's your understanding of, let's say, IaaS, PaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, right? So you give it 10 more seconds and then we can close. Thank you for your responses. So we got a response of about 56% saying yes, they understand what's IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, and the other 46% or 44% saying no. So with that, let me also mention the next step, which is I'd like you to submit your questions using the option on the, there's a option on the right on your GoToWebinar panel that says questions. You can actually submit your questions there. That way we can address your questions, and please feel free to type in your questions as we go along. There's no need to wait at the end, even though we'll have a Q&A at the end. So let's move into the introduction of topic, right? So if you look at business trends, right, a lot of the businesses are trying to understand how to redefine themselves in this new world. And they look at many things that they see, which is, hey, there is cloud computing that's on the rise, right? Everybody talks about cloud computing. There's social media, and people are figuring out, is that impacting my business? Is it not? Like, do I need to do something about this? Mobile marketing, right? And rise of the phone and tablet app. A lot of people are looking to their companies to say, hey, can I do some of part of what I do using a tablet or my phone so that I can actually respond faster and I can actually do more things, even though I might be out at dinner, I can respond to something where somebody needs something very urgently, right? And last, of course, is one of the trends of corporate social responsibility, which is, again, from a standpoint of being for profit only, I think there is more an increasing recognition that corporations need to also be socially responsible. And that's also a growing trend. And each of these is a large topic in itself, and today we will stick to cloud computing, right? We will talk about cloud computing. So let me actually ask a quick another poll, which basically says, are you as an organization considering going to cloud, right? Or whether you're already on using an Oracle cloud. We'll give it 10, 15 more seconds. Thank you for voting. I'm glad we have a very participative audience, and that really helps. Thank you very much. So our polls basically say 79% said yes, they're considering going to Oracle Cloud, 7% said no, and 14% said that they are already on a cloud, on Oracle Cloud, right? So, so let's move to the next slide, and I will talk about, since we have about 50% of the audience, or 44, that don't have a good understanding of it, I will spend a couple of minutes on this. So IaaS, or infrastructure as a service, right, is basically the bare metal, what they also call bare metal, right? It basically provides the ability to move your servers to the cloud. So if you are currently hosting in your environment, right, you are able to actually move this into the cloud and not have to bother with hosting anymore, right? And it outsources your infrastructure maintenance. Now, it used to be called hosting, right, in earlier days. But the key difference between why it is called infrastructure as a service versus actually hosting services is because in a hosting service, you actually specified what servers you want, what kind of infrastructure you wanted, and then the hosting company would get that for you, and they would actually host you on it. Versus when you're talking about cloud computing, all of a sudden, some of those needs go away. You don't have to define what servers you want, what OS you want. Actually, they are able to, you only say this is the computing power you need, this is the kind of computing disk space you need or computing power you need, and then the cloud provider actually provides it in those terms, right? So that's one of the key differences, is the need for you to be more technical goes away, right? They take care of that technical part. Now we move into PaaS, which is platform as a service. And platform as a service provides you the operating systems on the cloud, right? It allows you a platform. Let's say you're an organization that has custom applications. Maybe you're an organization that just runs on a custom application. Or you have certain areas where you have custom applications, which are not provided by any packaged software vendors. Now, those you can actually develop on the cloud, and you can actually maintain it on the cloud by yourself. So that's PaaS. So for those of you who think that cloud means no customizations, this is kind of a segue into what I have to tell you later, right? About the fact that you can actually develop every application that you have, every customization that you have on the cloud. And last, of course, is the SaaS, which is the software as a service, which is basically business applications. Now, whether it's your ERP, CRM, EPM, HCM, whatever the three-letter acronym is, it basically provides you a way of conducting your business on the cloud with uh, with basically using the application that is being delivered on the cloud, right? And with that, let me talk a little more details on each of these, right? So IaaS, for example, as I mentioned, is bare cloud metal services. And PaaS allows you to do data management, allows you to do security. It also allows you to do integration. So for example, if you had some of these cloud services, maybe you have some from Oracle, some from Workday, some from Salesforce, right? And you want to actually integrate these. You want these to talk to each other. Now, on-prem, I'm sure a lot of you know how to make it talk, right? But on the cloud, how do you do it? One of the ways to do that would be using your PaaS. You use platform as a service to create that integration across different cloud applications. You can actually do application development, right? And you can do a lot of business analytics too. And in the SaaS, you see the cloud offerings, which is CX Cloud, HCM Cloud, ERP, supply chain, EPM, or enterprise performance management, which is the new word for Hyperion, what used to be Hyperion. You have IoT Cloud, Analytics Cloud, and Data Cloud, right? So you have these different clouds. So this is a comprehensive offering from Oracle, and all of these work seamlessly. So from a security-wise, from being able to talk between each other, from being able to move, whether it's the user experience or whether it is data, you're able to move across these different offerings by yourself, right? So that is one of the key things. Sorry, I have another quick poll that I'm going to start with. I'm going to ask if you are here to thank you for being so patient and actually voting on so many polls. This will be the last one. Okay. So because I'd like to understand as we go again forward whether you'd like to understand the basics or you'd like to have specific questions. And if you have questions, feel free to put them in here. If we actually see some questions that we can actually answer along the way, we'll do that too. Okay. So one question that came along is, would you be providing the slide deck? The answer is yeah, we will be providing you the slide deck at the end of some of the key slides. That's what we had said we'll provide. It won't be the entire slide deck, but it'll be some of the key slides that you would actually get. So 85% answered that you're looking here for the basics versus 15% said specific questions. So those 15%, please go ahead and ask us for the specific questions and we'll be happy to answer. Okay, and that's kind of the last poll. Now that we have a good understanding of the audience, we'll continue with that. Okay. So this is another slide that allows you to talk about what is the different cloud models, right? And if you look at it, you can have what you call a private cloud. Now, if you're a company that has a lot of proprietary information that really needs to be very secretive, that is very concerned about security breaches and all of that, which all of us are concerned about it, but I'm talking about the highest level of security, like Department of Defense, right? You'd probably have more of a private cloud, right, rather than going into a hybrid or a public cloud. Now, and if you look at the public cloud on the other end is the software as a service that most of you know as cloud, right? That everybody, for example, your ERP cloud, your financials cloud, your supply chain cloud, all of that is a public cloud. And what that means is basically you're sharing the cloud, right? What you hear when Oracle salespeople come and talk to you, they're talking about you subscribing to the public cloud, right? Because as you can see here, whether it's software as a service, platform as a service, or IaaS, all of them can go either way. They can be public, hybrid, or private. But most of the time when you're talking about it, when you're considering going to the cloud on a subscription model, you're basically looking at the public cloud, right? And to the other extreme, if you're saying, I want to be hosted maybe completely private, then you can actually have your own private cloud. And obviously, what you get, right, is from an economy standpoint, the public cloud is better, right? If you see the arrow pointing, basically tells you that as you go public, the economy gets better, versus your control gets better as you move to the private. With that, let's start talking about how you get into this journey, right? So all of you in your careers have seen the technology coming and disrupting, or technology coming and enhancing, or technology actually aiding the development of your organization. And it could be just plain business monetization. It was some kind of business that I could now monetize because I'm on the cloud, because I'm able to use technology, right? Or whether it's enabling business real-time analytics, development of business gadgets, right? Or supporting business security. There's so many different ways, right? So as technology changes and evolves, the business landscape will change, right? And you're able to do more today than you were able to do 20 years ago when the technology was less evolved, right? Whether it's a boon or a bane, that's individual opinion. But from a business standpoint, everybody has stood to gain. Businesses have stood to gain, right? So one of the key things is the rising of cloud computing, and cloud computing has risen so much that you have to basically now be able to use it, and that's what this session is about. So let's go to the journey to Oracle Fusion Cloud, and I will let Hemal take over from here.
Yep. Thanks, Arun. So I think all of you just saw one of the key things as a part of the cloud computing. The key driver is the technology, and as Arun mentioned, the technology has been in the last few years is the key driver, which is also leading to quite a lot of business decisions being changed as part of it. And with that being the way, and if an organization is looking to embark on the Oracle Fusion Cloud journey, I think one of the key questions that comes is, what is Oracle Fusion Cloud, and why Oracle? So the Fusion, let me just spend a quick background on how the Fusion evolved. It's been that Oracle having multiple on-premise applications, including EBS, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, and multitude of ERP applications. And they got a one single product, which was more future looking in the terms of can be adoptable as a cloud, as a cloud service provider. And that's where the Fusion Cloud started. And Fusion Cloud is not just only about the business application as a SaaS, but it also comes with a Fusion middleware where you can have your business applications of Oracle, which is for example, Cloud CX, Cloud ERP, Cloud Supply Chain Management. You can integrate those things, and you can also integrate it with your on-prem third-party applications. So moving to the next question, why Oracle? And this is what, when I talk with many of the folks, I say Oracle, I see as one of the front runner in terms of the breadth and the depth of the stack which they actually provide or they offer. So it's been across all the business applications. You see CX, ERP, HCM, procurement, supply chain, manufacturing. Across all, they have got the offerings which have been available, which is in kind of pretty much an integrated fashion on the cloud offering. And from the depth standpoint, they also provide your PaaS, your infra as a service, and hence you have typically one go-to vendor or the product vendor for the cloud offering. And I think the clients can get much more synergies with this in the terms of the negotiating power and also in the terms of the coordination of the different vendors, minimizing into one vendor. So this is just a brief about the question about Fusion Cloud, why and what. Now the question next that comes to mind is, how can organizations prepare to embark on that Oracle Fusion Cloud journey? And what are the key considerations that you should be making as a part of it? So comparing it with what we used to have in our on-prem world when you're implementing for the first time an ERP application, the way, the approach, or the methodology that you used to take used to be different compared to what it should be with regard to the cloud journey. So first and foremost thing is, which you would have probably seen or observed in the cloud world, is organizations usually try to prefer to take a baby step instead of getting into kind of a big bang kind of thing, like everything, your infra, your software, everything is getting onto cloud. No, that's not the way usually organizations approach. And with regard to your on-prem, that's how it used to be. So I think for making a first step towards it, the key consideration, if it has to be made, identifying the pockets of your business processes or your application system services, which can be considered for adopting for the first step of the cloud journey. And one more thing, which typically that comes in as a part of your cloud roadmap, which anyway we'll be talking in much detail in the subsequent slides, is what kind of the roadmap or the plan that you have been tailoring it with your business needs and your IT needs. It's very important that you identify based on the change readiness and what is the value you're going to get as a part of the steps that you're taking as a part of your cloud roadmap. So let me move to the next slide, which actually talks about the business value that you get as a part of it. Arun, can you just give me a control? Yeah. So we're talking about, when you talk about the value which an organization would be getting it as a part of it. So I think in the prior slides, Arun mentioned about what are the three different service offerings which in the cloud computing world are available. And in this slide, we'd just like to take a deep dive from the value perspective, what an organization will be gaining if they're just adopting for infra as a service. First and foremost, it's one of the easiest steps with the minimal change impact to the end users, because what essentially is happening is your business application services or the business apps remains the same, which is actually interacting with your business users, but what's being changed is underlying infra part to it. That is one of them is pretty easy. And many of our organizations, we have seen that they have been hosting their applications, maybe it may be PeopleSoft or eBusiness or JD Edwards or any of their on-prem applications being hosted on AWS as a cloud or maybe Microsoft Azure or multiple such kind of service providers. Another aspect is organizations who actually want their software or the business applications to be hosted. Now that's typically what is an organization's, many of the small and mid-sized organizations, that's a quick and easier way to get that systems running with software as a service. No need to worry about your infra, the maintenance of it, patching of it, and all those things. And that's where a quick and easy advantage for many of the small and medium organizations it is. And whereas for the large organizations, it's actually the way or the goal it should be towards the end, but which requires a multitude of steps to it. And one of the key flexibility that you get as a part of the SaaS, which is your subscription-based model across maybe your SaaS or PaaS or infra, you can actually increase your based on your business needs and business trends, which may be, for example, an increase in the number of users. You can increase or decrease your user licenses, or you can even, based on the seasonal impacts or the market trends, the number of transactions are been increasing in a particular month of the year. So you can add computing power based on need, making it more or improve or like increase or decrease. And essentially you're paying for the services what you're using. So I think that's one of the biggest value that you get with such kind of models. And the third thing, which is the PaaS, which is a platform as a service, as was described, like a kind of a thing where you can have an environment where you can develop your custom applications. Now, the advantage or the value that organizations get is, in spite of embracing the cloud, which comes with quite a lot of restrictions on what you can have customized for, platform as a service opens a window for an organization where they can develop their custom bolt-on features or functionalities and can tie it back to the SaaS. So essentially, whatever from the business standpoint, which makes them as a unique or a differentiator compared to their competitors, and those kind of industry or rather a client-specific business process, which have been not catered by the standard Oracle Cloud SaaS product, can be developed and can be integrated with your SaaS offering. So that's where your PaaS provides a value, where organizations actually want to look out for a bolt-on, which requires kind of a data manipulation or data massaging, if I have to say, and integrating your on-prem or multiple third-party systems with you, which you would like your SaaS system to integrate. So that's what the organizations will get a value for. Now, moving to the next step in your journey, when you evaluated, okay, for an organization, what value, and let's say SaaS is the one which probably gives the more value, and that's a route that you're trying to adopt for, or if you're going for the PaaS and SaaS combination, depending on what combination you're looking out for, what is the aspects or what is the litmus test that you should be performing within your organization to check, is my organization cloud ready or not? And if it is, to what stage and to what level is it that ready? And for evaluating that, key question that is looking at from your organization aspect, which is your change aspect readiness, your business process readiness aspect, and your system or the IT landscape readiness aspect. So which part of my IT system landscape is ready to be adopted as the first thing on the cloud computing roadmap? Which part or the business group of my organizations who are more ready for a change? Or it can be which part of the business process which is easier to move. So for, I remember like for one of our client when which we were discussing who have kind of your HCM, supply chain and finance, and they were just evaluating which one is easy. What they found is from the system standpoint, they were having their financial system, which was less customized, pretty much aligned to business process. But one of the key situation they had is the business group were not change adaptive in that area. And similarly, whereas on the supply chain side, they had umpteen number of customizations, but the different level of challenges they have. So depending on what your situation for your system, your business process, and the business group, all three parameters once been considered, and that's you figure out and identify this piece is going to be first as a first step for your cloud migration journey. So moving to the next one, which is essentially talking about, Arun, can you just move to the next slide? Yeah.
So before that, Hemal, if I may actually add something there. One is in terms of the business value or the value for the applications. One, there are some values that we probably haven't mentioned, and that is whenever you have the SaaS or the PaaS, all of that, you automatically get like disaster recovery, backups, and all of that. right? Because you no longer have to worry about that infrastructure. So it is automatically included that if you're, let's say you're using a SaaS application, it is already backed up. It is already has disaster recovery. So you're not necessarily worrying about that. You're going to save costs on whatever you have in your current environment, however you do your disaster recovery and your backups. Also, the other big advantage is as new applications come in, even maybe something very industry specific for your industry comes in, it automatically features get added on, right? So it is not just the patching and stuff like that, but also the fact that you do get these additional features that just come in and are available for you to use.
Right. I think, yeah, I think good point, Arun. Yeah, I think that is one which is the disaster recovery, which comes bundled, which is available even for a small organization who's adopting for the cloud. So it's irrespective of what level subscription you're taking it, it's less or more, it comes as a package. That's true. And talking about what are the key business challenges when you're actually taking a step towards it, and which we have seen. I happen to just, whenever I go to many of the conferences, I just happen to ask questions to many of the folks. What are the top three things that you would like to change in your organization? And one of the question among those three things, which, or one of the response which used to be there as a key point, was to get started with the cloud. And that's where we have observed across many of our clients, the challenge is many of them would have a goal or a vision to go to cloud, but I think what is the way to get started? What should be the first step towards it? And I think the key challenge which actually inhibits taking that first step is lacking the cloud strategy within an organization or at a stakeholder level. So what is the vision that you have for your cloud journey? What is the business benefit that you're looking out to achieve as a part of that cloud journey? So without that, it's going to be very difficult for you to embark or take a step towards it. And second aspect is, once you have a cloud strategy, which area you should be getting starting with? Is it from your a specific business process, or is it something which is a specific business application that I should be moving it? I think that's something which many of the organizations quite a lot of times scratch their head where to get started. And that's for such scenarios, that's where we would recommend a kind of a three-step process or a three-step recommendation that we have. First being identifying your IT services which we would like to get adopted for the cloud offering or the cloud computing. Either you get it as a procured as a one-piece meal or as part of a group of such kind of things. So that's the first thing which you need to identify from your IT landscape standpoint. Second step is typically how you can actually have those business process for that application being documented and streamlined. So that is an activity which is kind of an in-house activity which organizations need to start on. And once they actually complete their journey of their documenting their internal processes, it's going to help them to actually move to the third step, which is essentially mapping their business process steps with the offering that cloud product provides. And once you have those clarity of what are your fits and gaps with regard to the cloud product, it will be easy for you to identify which business process is easier to get adopted for that change as a first step, or what are the changes that you need to align or to make to your existing business process so that you can align with the best practices of the cloud. So that is where a journey for the first step for your cloud adoption gets going for you. So moving to the next slide, we'll be talking about what are the key methodologies that you will be adopting or which are available for your cloud migration, and what are the key challenges that you face as a part of it. So typically, there are two broad categorizations we see. One is being process replication methodology, This is considering an organization which is having a business process which is more streamlined, minimal customizations or rather no customizations, hardly any integrations required. And many of our customers who are currently on Oracle e-business and who are having hardly any customizations, this is a roadmap is what they typically adopt for. And there are scenarios where organizations who are having a big IT ERP landscape with quite a lot of business processes being tailored to their business needs day to day and to meet the business users day to day requirement, you keep on building your customizations, you keep on building your integrations, you keep on building your tailored made business processes for your specific business group. And such kind of situations require a kind of a transformational change to be performed to your business process and system processes when you're actually adopting for your cloud movement. And that's where a kind of a re-implementation methodology has to be applied. So when we actually talk about a re-implementation methodology, the key things that you need to start with is first and foremost is redesigning your business processes. And what it essentially means is not just about mapping your business processes to what cloud offers, but you have to make a changes to your regular business as usual processes so that you can align with the offering of the cloud. Second, essentially, is whatever the customizations that you have been developed, you have to make a kind of a detailed analysis of how you can have your operations of such kind of functionalities being aligned to the cloud offering, and for what essentially you really need to go for the extension, which wherein you will be actually need to go for your integrating your PaaS and the SaaS talking together with. And the third part essentially is actually evaluating all your integrating system landscape, identifying which of them would be probably moving to cloud and what all is going to remain into your on-premise applications. And based on that analysis, you're going to develop your integration landscape. And that's where essentially what Arun had mentioned in the few of the slides before, that's typically what is your hybrid model, where you have few of your applications as on-prem and few applications on the cloud, and they continue in that fashion with integrating, talking with each other. That's which is kind of a hybrid model of the cloud that you're utilizing. So I think for the organizations, depending on what is their change readiness and what is the way they're looking out to see their data being transformed or to be adopted with the new functionality of a SaaS application of Fusion Cloud, if it is to be just mapped with your data structure level and just start using your Fusion Cloud application, process replication is a good way to go. But if you require your data to be changed a lot, require a totally new way of operating it, which cannot be utilized or which cannot be used through the product of cloud as is, you need to go for a re-implementation methodology. So moving to the next slide, which is for the key challenges that you have when you actually go for the migrating to cloud. Typically, if I have to just break it up into two buckets, one is more from the business process or the process standpoint, and second is essentially from the IT, or which is more like an application, the data standpoint. So when you actually think of moving to cloud, so based on experience, what we observed, one of the key challenge that's been is the business users being accustomed to using a system for many years, and as part of that activity, custom bolt-on workarounds have been created to suit the business user's need. And that is where taking out a business user out of that shoe and to a changed environment, I think that is one of the big change. If I have to just give an example, maybe I think most of us would have gone through a journey when we used to have our age-old mobile phones, which used to have a keypads, and getting it changed to a smartphone. I think that eventually everybody had to get adopted to it. But I think for a few it took a while, and for a few it was kind of a seamless process. So I think that change to the cloud where application has been created for the mass, the business application with the most like kind of the best practices, which is for across the industry, for across multiple type of customers, which is kind of a generic in nature, getting adopted to that generic functionality of the business application. I think that adoption is one of the key challenge that we have seen. Second aspect is whatever the bolt-on applications that have been created, how can we get that move to the cloud journey? I think that is one of the second aspect that we have seen across the organization. If I just take one of the example for one of a retail customer who used to have their custom matching process, one because of the multitude of data that used to be performed for your matching activity, and second is their customer specific business rules, which used to be like, I would say like 30 business rules that were applied, and they were not able to do that in the delivered on-prem application, and that's where they had created that bolt-on system for performing that matching activity. Now, for such kind of scenarios, or you may have a bolt-on being created for some other business process, how will you move such bolt-on feature when you're adopting to your cloud? I think that is one of the challenge when you're actually moving to the cloud. And the third aspect, which is having multitude of business applications, one for procurement. Let's say you have a customer has Coupa as a cloud application for procurement, whereas they are having the financials, which is on-prem. They're having supply chain and manufacturing, which is on SAP. So they've got multiple products, multiple product vendors, and how to get this integration landscape working with adopting on the cloud journey. I think that is the third aspect, which typically the integration aspect, which becomes one of the key challenge for the cloud migration journey. And talking on the other side, which is on the application and the data side, the big change that happens is how the page renders, because your application is now changing to the cloud. So your navigations, your look and feel, nomenclature gets changed for the user. Not only that, the underlying data structure, which is the tables, the fields on which user has been comfortable querying and viewing the data, that's going to get changed. So that is more an application and data aspect which gets changed here. So all in all, not just the business layer, but also your underlying application layer, both gets changed as a part of your cloud migration. So all these aspects or these challenges has to get addressed before you actually have a smooth journey to your cloud. So that's a kind of critical assessment to be made. So
if I were to summarize it, basically you're saying, Himal, that for the key is basically for somebody who has been on an application for long, they need to start thinking about this change coming, right? Both from a business process standpoint as well as from an application standpoint.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Himal. With that, I actually will start talking about the roadmap, right? And just a quick time check. We have 9 minutes more. I will try and finish this in the next 4 minutes so that the last 5 minutes we can address some of the questions that have come on the question board, right? So going back to what Himal was talking about in terms of challenges. So the challenges that you're talking of is when you walk into a company, in many of your companies, you've been using this application for 10 years or 12 years, right? You know the ins and outs. If a requisition gets stuck, you know how to get it unstuck. If sales order shipment's not going for some reason, it's showing something wrong, you know how to get it fixed. The problem is now you have to start learning all that all over again on how to do it in cloud, right? So how do we do that? One of the key things is to start a early education program, right? And same with going back to applications and the data standpoint. Your IT today can, if for example, you suddenly say there's a problem, hey, you know what, that value is not correct. IT can provide a fix. They can go in and change it, right? They're able to do that today in today's world. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So IT is able to go ahead and make those changes today. versus going forward, that's going to be a little more difficult, right? Understanding the security models of an on-prem world, you were more secure, you had it everything in-house, all of that. Now you're on the cloud. Is it going to be as secure? Obviously, it's going to be the same level of security, but your IT needs to understand how that security is monitored, how that security is distributed, right? And lastly, of course, understanding the data, whether as I move from here to there, is the data going to be a one for one? It's not going to be a one for one, but is it sufficient is the key question, right? So it's very important for you to actually do that. So let's talk about the methodology, right? As Hemal earlier pointed out, there could be two methodologies. One is basically a application or process replication methodology, and the second one is a reimplementation. So in a process replication methodology, one of the key advantages is you can get there faster, right? Now, we've identified that you have to first do a requirements analysis and design. The three key steps are your analysis and design, right? The second is your data transport, right? Because which is a big chunk of data transport is a big chunk because of the mapping, right? And the third one is the iterative reviews, right? So using this methodology, we've been able to compress it. So the most common question we get asked is, hey, how long does it take to implement this, right? And I'm going to turn around and say, how long does it take your organization to implement it? Because there's been organizations that implemented it in 14 weeks, and there's organizations that have taken maybe more than a year to implement the same footprint. So it's really a question of how comfortable your organization is and how fast your organization can move, right? I have had clients that have said, you know what, we are all done, we have finished UAT, but we want to do a parallel run between the cloud and the on-prem to make sure that we are getting the same outputs. And that is also fair. People have done parallel runs to make sure that it's the same. They found it to be comfortable, and then they have migrated. So it's a question of where your organization comfort is. What is your organization internal skill set, and how quickly are you willing to learn and change, right? And like in step 3, I have many iterations there, 5 iterations. Some can make do with 3. Some will need more iterations, right? So what happens by doing this is you get basically aligning the business objectives. So the reason we say requirements analysis and design is to make sure that we are aligning business objectives, not requirements, right? Because one of the key things is if you start saying, I can do this in EBS and I want to be able to do the same thing in cloud, that is the path to actually trying to start customizing cloud, right? You want to be able to say, I have this business process that I can conduct on EBS. Now, can I conduct the same business process on the cloud, right? And provide the same outputs to my customers or to my users on the cloud? And if you go that way, your steps to get to it may be different, but you will achieve the same, right? So it's very important for you to actually look at it from that standpoint. So from a standpoint of how you move to the cloud, we are talking about, hey, this is a methodology where you can say, I can identify one part that moves to the cloud and then slowly move the rest to the cloud. And the way we recommend doing that is based off on a business process basis, right? And so in order to help this rapid methodology, we also have built connectors that will allow you to transport some of this data. The data transport is something that we make easy for you, right? So with that, I will actually move over to the questions so that we will do a quick review of the questions. And so one of the questions came about saying from Sajid saying, please expand on corporate social responsibility. If you don't mind, we can take that offline because that's not the focus of this discussion today, but I'm happy to answer that question. And does PaaS enable hybrid integrations? Example, EBS Cloud to integrate with whatever different applications? The answer is yes. You can use PaaS to integrate your ERP applications, your SCM applications to any other applications. That is correct. Has there been successful Oracle Fusion financial implementations, right? There have been hundreds of Fusion application implementations that are successful, that are currently on the cloud, and they are using it very well, right? So, and we'd be happy to provide more details as we actually, if you want to reach out to me or to Jeff on the call, we'll be happy to provide you with a lot more details about who is successful. You can even talk to some of them that have been successful. Next question. Sorry for rushing, but do you have any sample ROI available for a client other than saying staying current on patches? What is it that we get as ROI? So as I mentioned, some of the key ROIs are your disaster recovery, your backups. Those are all, you don't need to spend on them anymore, right? Your patching is one part of it, but the other key part is basically new functionality. New functionality that allows your users to collaborate, new functionality that allows users to actually conduct more complex business processes, right? And those are some of the key. Now, if we understand your industry a little better, we can bring you more industry-specific answers. So we'll be happy to answer some of those questions. If you want to just email one of us, we'll be happy to give you an answer based off on your industry. Because in certain industries, we have found that going on the cloud, right, allows, for example, users that are, if you're distributed across the country, across time zones, or across globally, you're able to collaborate better on the cloud. Okay, that's one of the inbuilt features. Workflow-based pushing of the processes is another one. And would not one of the key considerations be which parts of my organization run on different pieces of applications that could be integrated or combined under a comprehensive cloud solution? The answer is absolutely yes. That's one of the key considerations. I believe we kind of touched upon it earlier on to say you need to look at your organization and say which parts of my organization have a process that it lends itself to moving to the cloud very quickly, right? We didn't word it the way you did. You worded it better, but that was the same thought process. And the next question is, financials at my organization has 60% customization, upwards of 100 interfaces, and several third-party applications with real-time integration. What do you recommend at a high level to be the first step? So my first question back to you would be, do you actually have business process maps that show processes and then have an overlay of those processes with the systems used? And then the third layer would be the data structures in those systems. So if you have those three layers laid out, then you can actually identify sections of those that can go, or maybe it's a good case for the whole thing to move to a cloud solution. I cannot answer that question very definitively, but your methodology would be to go about getting your process maps, getting your system overlay, and getting your data structure overlay on top of that. Do we need to perform validation after we replicate the existing business? The answer is yes. So that is the iterative methodology that we talked about, which would be testing. When we say validate, we're talking about basically testing that you would actually conduct. We would lead you through the testing and we'd have you test it. It could be 3 cycles of testing, 5 cycles of testing. We recommend a minimum of 3 so that users become comfortable with it. And what would you consider limitations of the cloud, please? There's quite a few of them. Now, whether you call them a limitation or a change in how you think is the key part of it, right? Now, because if you look at it and compare it with an existing on-prem application, that could come out to you as a limitation. But at the same time, if you look at it and say, hey, it still does my business process. If I were a company that wasn't on an on-prem application and I went to the cloud today, would I be able to use it? The answer is yes, right? And so it's a question of how you view it. But there are, if you look at coming from an on-prem world and into cloud, you will see that, hey, I see some limitations in how this thing does. And some of it can be simple things like I could do some functions here, I could use some data here. Now that data is not available, or that data I have to do 3 more clicks to get to it. It could be as simple as that. But the answer is yes. And it depends on which modules, what you're using. We would be able to actually give you those specific answers. So that's the end of the Q&A round. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Hemal, for being on the presentation, and thank you, Jeff, for being on the panel. And we look forward to our next month's webinar. Please be sure to join us next month also. We have new and exciting topics coming up next month. Thank you.